All right.
Hmm?
So it is 1 minute past the hour. So we can go ahead and get started. Um, I'm going to introduce my guests in just a moment, but first, just want to take the opportunity to let you know who I am and who the organization is. So my name is Lori Black. I am the Associate Director of the Lowell Milken Center for Music of American Jewish Experience here at the UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music. Uh, in our organization, we have the wonderful opportunity to create Jewish music programming, both public musical performance programming, educational programming, and Jewish music research, all based right here at UCLA. And this is the first of the many programs that we offer you this year. So we are very glad to have everyone here. I want to quickly offer a thank you to my colleagues, Dr. Mark Kligman and Beth Kramer, for helping run this and make this a wonderful and smooth program. And I want to remind you that if you are at all interested in Jewish music programming, which I would say it's safe to assume anyone on this call is, then I would really encourage you to join our mailing list. You will find the link in the chat. Thank you, Beth, for putting that there. And then finally, please look for many of our many exciting programs that we have coming up. First, tickets are still on sale for our program this Sunday, Women's Voices, Women's Souls, 7:30 at Temple Israel of Hollywood. It's an amazing co-sponsorship between the LA Jewish Symphony, Temple Israel of Hollywood Arts and Culture, and the Lowell Milken Center. So today, our guests, I'm going to do a quick introduction because I want to jump right into music. Creating deep, emotive musical languages that build cultural and artistic bridges. The music of Andrea Clearfield is performed widely in the US and abroad. Her 160 works include an opera and 15 large-scale cantatas, one commissioned and premiered by the Philadelphia Orchestra. She is a recipient of numerous awards, including a 2016 Pew Fellowship, a 2021 Pew Center for Arts and Heritage International Residency Award, and many more. She is a 2020 to 2022 composer in residence with national concerts at Carnegie Hall. And Dr. Noreen Green, for those of you who are in Los Angeles, know her as one of our local Jewish music icons, artistic director and conductor of the Los Angeles Jewish Symphony, which was founded in 1994. She is known worldwide for her knowledge and skill in presenting music with Jewish themes. She has served as guest conductor in the United States, Israel, South Africa, Australia, and Canada. Under Dr. Green's direction, the LAJS has performed at the Walt Disney Concert Hall, Royce Hall at UCLA, the Ford Theaters, and other venues. Special guest performers have included such personalities as Tova Feldshuh, Randy Newman, Theo Bickel, Marvin Hamlish, and the list goes on. I'm very excited to have both Dr. Green and Andrea Clearfield here with us today. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
So we have lots of music to go through. We'll see how much of it we get through. But we're going to start by looking at some of the works that express you, Andrea, as both a composer, but also where your composition, your compositional output, and your Jewish identity have intersected. And we're starting with a work called Prayer to Shekhinah. So why don't we listen to it first, and then you can tell us a little bit about what went into it and what it tells us about you. So now the awkward moment that we all have to wait for a second while we queue up the presentation. Thank you all for your patience. By now we're all used to the process of creating a Zoom program, so thank you all. Here we go. So this is Prayer to Shekhinah, and I will say that unfortunately, just due to time, we will not watch/listen to the whole thing, but we will see a nice half of it. So there's a lot of interesting music all at once. It all happens in a short space. In 2 minutes, you kind of take us on a journey there. So please tell us a little bit about the work, and I have my own questions, but tell us what you think we should know about it.
This piece was commissioned by the chorus Conspirare, based in Austin, and it's to a poem by Mirabai Starr, who specializes in the scholarship of sacred texts. And Mirabai hadn't actually published this poem, and she showed it to me. I was visiting in Taos, New Mexico, and I really just fell in love with it because it's an invocation to the Shekhinah, essentially to be with us and to care for us in times of trouble. And it just felt very prescient. This was the very last performance that I had before the pandemic. It was the very end of
Oh wow.
February. I was in Austin for the performance, and um, so there's something, sort of in the air with the piece, asking the feminine face of God, the feminine, to be with us and to care over us and to bless
Mhm.
us.
That was something I was kind of interested in hearing you speak just a little bit more about. Is I mean, if you want to tell us, how you're interpreting Shekhinah in there, because I hear that there's, you're kind of, as I said, taking us on a journey a little bit, and I was wondering if you have any further thought on that.
Well, I think the Shekhinah as the overarching feminine, it actually ties into the other piece that we'll talk about later, that Women of Valor, which is based on Proverbs 31, which can be likened to the Shekhinah, the oneness, the godliness of the woman. And so there's the archetype of the Shekhinah, there is uh, the divine aspect, and there's the divine inside all of us that we're able to access. So I think of all of those things, and in this piece, the cello is really the soul of the Shekhinah coming through and inviting us into her radiance.
Thank you so much. Well, that's beautiful. Well, we're gonna move right along. This is a really fantastic way to bring us into the next work. So, um, Farlan Allah, yeah, forgive me, I think I just mispronounced it.
Amen.
Alaman, for Lauren Alaman, is a work that connects you to, I mean, clearly still to your own Jewishness, but also to a piece of Jewish history. And maybe you could tell us just a little bit about that before we jump right into it.
Yeah, that piece was commissioned by an Israeli soprano, Raya. Oh, I'm just forgetting her last name, Gonen, and she actually has an amazing story to tell, where her parents were Holocaust survivors, and they this was actually written, and they were friendly with others who survived the Holocaust. And this is a piece in Yiddish that is about losing everyone. And when it was actually performed, originally for soprano and piano, it was sent to the woman's whose story it was about. And she listened to it and just couldn't believe that her story was being told. It was a very, very moving experience for all of us. It was sent to her in Israel. Since then, I've arranged it for chorus.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Well, let's go ahead and let's hear Farlan Alaman. there's so much color in the way you wrote that. The way you're really playing with the color in the ensemble. Um, I mean, I know as a performer and conductor, and Noreen, I'd be curious to hear you comment on this, but it's works like that that I mean make me want to perform, because there's so much to mess around with. There's so much to manipulate and to bring out in the way it's constructed. So if either of you would love to would like to comment on that, I'd be interested to hear either or both of you comment.
I'll just mention that there's an idea that recurs throughout the work where one voice or one a subset of voices holds over a long tone at the end of each line, and it gives the sense of being alone. Even at the very end, they filter out one by one until there's just one voice left. And so I think I wanted to create that sense of both, you know, the community
Mhm.
experience, but then also what happens when you're alone, when you've lost everyone, or you think you've lost everyone. In this story, there is actually a happy ending because they've reunited in Israel. Um, but that was something that came to me, and I just remember being at an artist residency in Wyoming writing this piece, and
Mhm.
I called my mother, who happens to be on this Zoom right now, Louise Clearfield, and I said, "Mom, this melody keeps coming to me and it won't leave me alone. Did I write it?" And she said, "Well, I haven't heard it before." So
Well,
it was one of those moments really where the calling was so strong for that
well,
particular.
that's funny you say that, because I certainly had the reaction where there's something that sounds familiar about it. And I mean, I know that you're playing with what we would think of as maybe Eastern European or Jewish modality a little bit in there, and I mean, it just somehow feels very familiar to certainly anyone who has sung a nigun or something like that.
Well, I would say it's like a Viglied, you know, it's very much
Mhm.
a lullaby that
Yeah.
you could hear the lullaby and the way it's the rocking, like almost you want to sing your baby to sleep, da, 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 you know, and that
Mhm.
rocking and the piano accompaniment also adds to that rocking feeling. Um, so I love this piece. I presented it actually at the American Choral Directors Association. I gave a
Mhm.
presentation on Jewish music, and this was one of the representations of Holocaust music that I presented. And it's we didn't talk about the text and how the music relates to the text, but one of the things about Andrea's music in general is her ability to take a text and through music make it come alive and make you feel connected to the text. It's like the marriage between the melody and the text um, is is just that. It's a marriage, and you can feel how every note responds to the lyric. And I think that's a very special quality of Andrea's music.
Thank you. Yes,
um,
definitely. The words drive the music when I'm working with text and words. I respect um, the written word so much.
and we see, I mean, throughout this evening, we'll see a number of examples of how you've worked with different libretti to create to tell a story, to create a certain emotion. I think as I'll let everyone in on in a conversation that the three of us had earlier. I said that I feel like I've gotten to know you, Andrea, so well by just getting to listen to all of your music. Not certainly not all of your music, but a number of works over the last few days, because you I mean, there's so much storytelling, there's so much personality in all of it. So I really appreciate it. Um, and with that, we're actually going to take a kind of an interesting turn, but still very deeply connected to who you are, Andrea. And look at a work Tsegola. Tsegola certainly doesn't necessarily fit into this. Well, as we said in our discussion, it kind of fits into who you are as within your Jewish identity in its own way. So, if you could tell us just a little bit about where Tsegola is coming from, both geographically and in your own musical journey, and how it fits in.
Sure. Yeah. Segola is a piece inspired by my Tibetan music fieldwork in the Himalayas. Now, as a composer, I taught at a university for many years, and then I decided I wanted to pursue composition full time. And so working on commission, different commissions will come with various parameters. So especially if I'm working with words and text, there might be themes. And so I've written pieces that have taken me to far reaches of my imagination. But I had no idea that literally a commission would take me to the top of the world. And that's what happened. I ended up meeting the last of the royal court singers in the Lomantang region, which is in northern Nepal, essentially Tibetan. The borders changed and now part of Nepal, and one of the last remaining enclaves of old Tibetan culture in the world. And so I ended up recording the court singer, and also ended up going back on a second trek to do more recordings. And this experience for me really changed my life and work, and resulted in a new body of work for the past 10 years. So Segola is a large-scale work that incorporates some of the melodies that I heard, and also some of the ritual sounds of the Tibetan instruments. It's a piece on rites of passage from birth all the way through death.
And it really is just such an interesting way to explore ritual in one's culture and to get to know your own culture in the process. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead. We're going to listen to two portions of Segola. Oh, sorry. I think let me fix this share real quick. I think I just did it a little wrong. My apologies. 1 second. There we go. And so the first portion we will be hearing is from Movement 2, Sharkira. So I will just need to fast forward a few seconds at the beginning. Sorry to cut that short, but so much repertoire to get through. Um, so now we are going to, unless there's anything else you wanted to say about Segola. Um,
Uh,
Go
just,
ahead.
just that these are two movements from a seven movement work, so the whole cantata is 30 minutes.
And this would actually be a great time to ask if any of the individuals on this call want to find more of your music. Where would be able to find recordings, buy them, stream them, etc. Whatever, however best to find your music.
They could go to my website, andreaclearfield.com, or my manager's website, that's Black Tea Music. And if they're looking for choral music, that would be Boozy and Hawks, Shermer, Hal Leonard, and Sia Dot.
Fantastic. And if anyone didn't wants to get that information and did not get it, we can always share it in the chat later on during the question and answer session. And there it is. Perfect. So now we are going to move back into the Jewish world, listening to two movements from what is really your interpretation of a Jewish classic, the Golem. And so before we listen to the two movements, I wanted to start just from a place of, this is a story that has been told many times in many different ways, musically, not musically, theatrically, etc. And so jumping into it, that's both an exciting thing to take on, but also an interesting challenge. And so before we listen to it, I was just wondering how, and I should say you embraced the challenge, but can you tell us a little bit about how you embraced that challenge?
I enjoy challenges, and I enjoy research and learning about new things, and especially mythology and ancient religions and other cultures, as you see. This came about because the conductor of the Mendelssohn Club at that time, Alan Harler, was interested in a creation myth, and he wanted to commission me to write a big piece that would be paired with the Bloch Sacred Service. And we looked at all kinds of creation myths together. And then he said, "Have you ever been to Prague? And do you know the story of the golem?" And I said, "Yes, I have been to Prague." And we both thought it was a kind of unusual creation myth because, Rabbi Lowe brings the golem to life himself. And so I asked my friend and illustrious writer, Ellen Frankel, if she would write the libretto. We had already worked together on Women of Valor. And I told Ellen that I wanted different tableaus that would illustrate some of the complexities of the story, like technology run amok, or silence versus the word, or what does it mean to have a soul or not have a soul, or to be able to speak or not speak. So Ellen did an amazing job with the libretto, and the words just leapt off the page. And it was a lot of fun to write this piece. This is the Mendelssohn Club and the Philadelphia Chamber Orchestra.
Here we go. So the movements that we will be hearing are movement 2, Abracadabra. And again, we will be hearing clips as this is part of a much larger work. But movement 2, Abracadabra, and then a portion of movement 7, the uncreation. And I really love the use of that word, uncreation. And we will go from one clip to the others, just as we did with the last. So enjoy.
Ascol mai masque, girano, umara, non caer per rama e non. I will create as I speak. I created as she died. I will create as I speak. did Rabbi Judah wrest me from the mud of the Moldau, and circling 7 times, bring me to life. Legend has it that golems waiting still, waiting to redeem or be
So we are starting to get crunched on time, and I want to make sure that I leave enough time for this next section because not only is another really important work and related to our discussion, but this is the project at hand and what we're performing this weekend, and so there's a lot to talk about. And I just wanted to give it to both you, Noreen and Andrea, both of you. If you could tell us just a little bit about um, how Women of Valor came to be. I mean, this is at this point a long time project between the two of you that has taken on many different forms. It has been a concert has been recorded. I mean, there's so much to say about Women of Valor and what it has to do with for what it means for both of you. So take it away. Please tell us a bit about Women of Valor.
When I started the LA Jewish Symphony, one of the advice I got from my mentor, Murray Sidlin, was to have a 5-year plan, 5-year goals. And so when I first started the symphony, I always thought I would like to commission or inspire a work from a woman composer to talk about the biblical women in the Bible, to be conducted by a woman and performed by a woman. And Andrea and I met in Aspen under the tutelage of Murray Sidlin, actually. So in 1995, Andrew was looking for a large-scale work to kind of produce, and we had been friends, and so we talked about creating this work. And actually, it was this book that inspired the whole thing. And I'm going to hold it up. It's a midrash about the different, how the Eshet Chayil, the poem Women of Valor, relates each of the line of the text to a biblical woman. So Andrea then took it from there and created this incredible work, which we premiered at Royce Hall in 2000. And then 17 years later, I recorded it. And the symphony we're celebrating 27 years. And I hadn't done a professional recording. And of all of the works that I've commissioned or inspired, it was Women of Valor that we recorded. And it's on the Albany label, if you can see. And it's had a life of its own. I think since its premiere, several of the movements have been published and performed as choral works. It's a large-scale work for orchestra, a soprano soloist, a mezzo soloist, a narrator, and it's an hour-long cantata, and there's 10 arias, and the glue, the recitative, is the actual Eshet Chayil poem.
And now I have to ask Noreen the same question I asked Andrea earlier. If someone wanted to hear that recording, where could they find it? And also, how can they find out more information about hearing and keeping up with LAJS?
So
That's
we
the
have
LA
a
Jewish
website.
Symphony, sorry.
Yeah, we have a website, lajs.org. In fact, it's brand new. It's only 2 weeks old. So go visit it and tell us.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. And our recording, we have a recording tab, and this recording is on there, and it's on the Albany label. So you can order the CD from the Albany label, and a lot of it is on YouTube as well. If you go to the Albany website, they have a lot of it on YouTube as well. Its CDs are, nobody even has a CD player in their car anymore. So, but it's very precious to us. So.
Well, we're going to go ahead and listen to a portion of 2 different movements. We wanted to fill in the gaps, as it were, with what from the program that will be taking place this weekend. And so we're going to play the 2 movements that won't be performed this weekend. That is Sarah and Ruth. And while we will not be listening to the whole thing, again, if you want to hear the whole thing, please follow up and you can get the CD. There are elements on YouTube. In the meantime, we wanted to offer this to you. And please, if you have any questions, this is the opportunity to put them into the chat. If you don't want to put them in the chat and you want to take the opportunity to actually ask right after, please be thinking about your questions and prepare for after the recording. So with that, we will go ahead and listen to Sarah and Ruth from Women of Valor.
I am the first Jewish woman, the first Jewish wife, the first Jewish mother. As a young beauty, I left my home, my family, my culture, and my faith, and with my beloved Avram, set off to follow the voice without a face. I braved the harem of Pharaoh and Abimelech, banished Hagar and her son, subjected my aged body to the travails of birth, and watched my husband lead my only son off to death.
Like a warm that radiance, unlike the tides of her blood, into potent order.
At the season of first fruits, we recall two travelers, co-conspirators, scavengers, making do with leftovers and mill ends, whose friendship was stronger than fear, stronger than hunger, who walked together the road of shards, hands joined.
Where you go, I will go too. Your people shall be my people. I will be a Jew for you. For what is yours, I will love. Yes, I love you. Oh, Naomi, my mother, my sister, my heart.
So with that, I'd like to open it up to anyone who would like to ask a question. Either put it in the chat or raise your hand virtually or even raise your hand physically and we'll see you and call on you. So feel free. This is your opportunity to ask the artists a question. Do we see any questions? Well, I would
comment.
Oh, please jump in.
Well, I just wanted to say that that gorgeous soaring soprano voice you heard on the recording, you're going to hear at our concert, Hila Plitman. She was just graduated from Juilliard when we found her to do the premiere. And she is now a Grammy Award-winning soprano. And this work is as important to her as it is to us because she was the creator of that role. So for any other reason than to come and hear this extraordinary woman sing on Sunday, the role of the soprano role in the excerpts, she's just stunning. As
And
you could hear.
and with that, I mean, this weekend's concert is not a typical straight from the top to the bottom performance of the work. Can you tell us just a little bit about what we might expect for this weekend?
Yeah, well, it's women's voices, women's souls. So the centerpiece is Andrea's 5 excerpts from The Woman of Valor. We're doing the Leah and Rachel story, the 2 sisters, and then we do Yocheved, the mother of Moses and Miriam, Hannah, and then Miriam, the dance of Miriam. So those are the 5 movements from The Woman of Valor we're doing. We're opening with music by Maria Newman. She wrote a piece called Shirat Hayam, which is the Song of the Sea, which is actually Miriam's song. It's the setup of Miriam's song. So we start with Miriam and we end with Miriam. And then in the middle, we have only a book by Sharon Farber, another local Israeli composer. And that is inspired by a poem that uses the text describes how the book, which is the Bible, has been the central holding point for all Jews throughout history. So it's going to be a great concert, and you'll hear Andrea speak, and you'll hear Maria speak, and Eileen Strempel, the dean of UCLA Herb Alpert School of Music, is going to talk about women composers. She's a specialist in that, and I'm very excited. Come live. We want to see smiling faces if you're in LA.
Yes, join us in the audience.
Oh, we have
Yeah, Leonard Lehrman.
I wish I could be there. I'm in New York. It's a little far. But
It's a heck of a commute.
If it's streamed or recorded, I would love to hear it. Noreen and Andrea, I have heard about you for years, and it's such a pleasure to meet you finally. I collaborated with Ellen Frankel on the Triangle Fire Opera, and she talked about you, Andrea, for years. And Noreen, you and I were in touch years ago. I want to ask you a question, each of you, 2 questions. Have you ever considered, the first question is, have you ever considered setting to music the story of Zelophehad's daughters, the first struggle for women's rights in history? And the second question is, would you be interested in a work, even if it's not by a woman composer, on that subject?
I'm interested in everything, of course. I don't know the story. Do you know the story?
Not well enough, but it
sounds interesting.
Yeah.
It's in Numbers and Deuteronomy, and it's the 5 daughters of Zelophehad were denied a portion, his portion in the Promised Land, because when he died, he had no sons, and so they appealed to the captains of tens and the captains of 50s and the captains of hundreds and the captains of thousands, and finally they went to Moses, and Moses went and sought divine guidance, came back and said they're right, and it's the first successful struggle for women's rights in history. Yeah, I would think that this would interest each of you, and encourage you to look into it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions from our audience, I just want to take this opportunity to thank, on everybody's behalf, Noreen Green and Andrea Clearfield for joining us tonight, and for a lifetime of amazing music from both of you. You have both been bringing amazing and interesting and innovative Jewish music, and we really do. I should say we, as if I'm speaking for the Jewish people. We all appreciate it. But you really, it is just such a pleasure to get to spend time with this repertoire. So thank you so much. To our audience, we hope that you will join us either virtually or in person for our event this weekend and for future events. Follow the Lowell Milken Center, follow LAJS, follow Noreen and Andrea, and keep up with all of the amazing work that all the different organizations are doing. And we hope to see you at our next program. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful evening. Take care.